I don't agree with Piers Morgan most of the time, but sometimes he gets it right. In this clip, he challenges two retired U.S. generals defending Trump's handling of the Iran war. Let's watch, and I'll give you my take at the end.
With Israel, are they winning this war? Or is, as some people are claiming, the asymmetrical war being waged by Iran in the Strait of Hormuz actually turning out to be more successful?
Well, I see a lot of Vietnam wrapped up in this contest we're involved in right now. We're winning immensely on the battlefield. We have crushed Iran's ability to exercise command and control. We've decimated their ability to exercise, I would think, the domestic requirements of a legitimate government. We don't know who's in charge. I don't think the Iranian people know who's in charge. And I doubt anybody's going to raise a hand and say, look, I want to take the mantle of the burden of leadership, knowing full well if they go outside for a smoke break, they're going to get shot in the head, as well they should be. So my experience viewing this is that we are inflicting incredible damage. But from the perspective of who's got the longer horizon, time horizon of how much longer we can withstand pain, I think Iran has the ability to simply hang in there much longer than we do, because we're dealing with political dynamics, which are really incredibly difficult for us to look at a warfare through the political spectrum, but that's what it's all about. But I think that's where it is. I've described this in many cases. Look, this is a lot like Monty Python, and the Holy Grail, and that tis but a scratch, as their arms and legs are getting cut off, but they've got the ability to hang in there.
Yeah, Jim Hansen, I mean, it seems to me the goalposts have shifted significantly throughout this 6-week war so far. We've gone from wanting regime change to total surrender to now the main theme is we've got to stop Iran getting a nuke and so on. And it's all been very confusing and very inconsistent. But ultimately, if at the center of this is Donald Trump's claim that Iran must be stopped from developing a nuclear weapon, can this war be perceived to be successful if the enriched uranium, which Iran possesses, remains in Iran in their possession?
Well, to extend the metaphor, I'd say that's the Holy Grail. You have to get that. And I don't think there has been a shifting of goalposts. The goal all along has been to stop Iran from getting a nuclear weapon, being able to develop one, having the initiative to do it, having the ability, having the ballistic missile programs and other conventional arms that protect them and stop other people from going in and removing that capability. So from that perspective, all of those things have at least been put on hold or set back decades. Their defense industrial base is non-existent at this point. They're running out of missiles and drones and everything else. And I think at some point you have to look at what President Trump's decision was. He had to either take the fact that they had begun trying to develop their nuke program again, which has one purpose. Let's not pretend it's about nuclear power. It never has been. It's always been about the Islamic Revolution's bomb. And he said, if we don't do something to stop that at this point, they're going to continue. And at some point, another president is going to see a mushroom cloud. He's not going to be the guy who kicked the can down the road again. And so he took massive political damage to do the right thing for America and the world. And I think he'll see it.
But how is he going to get the enriched uranium without committing a significant number of ground forces with all the danger that goes with it?
He's going to break the Islamic Republic's will to continue. The blockade hurts them more than us. They need to get oil revenue and they need to bring things in. If that stops, and we have every capability to do that, it's already started, then they only have a couple weeks where they have enough cash reserves. And the other thing to look at is if they don't get their oil out, their fields are pumping, their storage capability is at 60%. That'll be filled up in less than 2 weeks. After that, they have to shut their wells down, and that breaks the wells. That ruins the ability to continue pumping. So they've got a 2-week window tops if we enforce this blockade. And that's where the maximum pressure comes from. The kinetic stuff broke their dangerous toys. This breaks their ability to continue both internally and externally.
Major General Marks, do you agree with that assessment?
Well, I agree with Jim, absolutely, that what the United States, in concert with in the campaign with Israel, has been able to defeat the capability of the Iranians to achieve nuclear capability, attrit their ballistic missile development, and put their proxies, either destroy their proxies or put their proxies on notice that they're not going to live much longer. And so I see this as we're in a period of transition, and that we can go from what we've seen over the course of the last 5 weeks, which has been quite phenomenal and destructive in terms of what has been able to be achieved. And we can transition into a period where we could have sustainable engagement against those targets. The three red lines are proxies, missiles, and nukes. And we could have a sustained engagement that doesn't necessarily put boots on the ground at all to secure the HEU, but to identify it as best we can. And look, I spent my life as an intel guy, and I understand the challenges of getting it right, and I know the scar tissue of getting it wrong. But we can go after Esfahan, Natanz, and Fordo as a matter of routine and further degrade their ability and set back their ability to be a threat. Until we put boots on the ground and we start opening steel doors, there's never going to be a level of certainty that's going to satisfy everybody. All the pundits are going to say, what is it, 30%, 80%? Look, I don't know. But we can set this back so that they don't become a threat until such point as the Iranian people say, look, we're tired of being in a threat situation all the time. Our social contract shoved down our throat 50 years ago is we got to listen to these lunatics in Tehran, this theocracy, which is incredibly hypocritical at its root. And at some point, we give them the opportunity to rise up and say, we want something different. That horizon may be years away. But the horizon for us is racing upon us because we have elections. We have a vocal electorate, and we have challenges associated with that. And I don't disagree with Jim. I think every one of President Trump's predecessors is probably smoking a cigar and drinking a bourbon right now saying, you know, for God's sakes, I wish I'd done that.
Well, I'm not convinced by that. And the reason is I think there's also a credibility issue with President Trump, to be honest, which is that after the 12-day war last summer, he was out there saying very loudly, we have destroyed their nuclear capability, put it back decades, blah, 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 blah. And yet within 8 months, he felt the need to launch a full-fledged war against Iran for precisely the reasons that he said had been neutralized 8 months earlier. So there is a credibility issue there. And my question would be here, well, how do we know? You know, whose word do we take? If suddenly we get the same statements being made, oh, we've done it again. 8 months later, we've once again we have neutralized their nuclear threat for another 2 decades. Well, how do we know what to believe?
Piers, you know Donald.
Sorry, that was for Jim. Sorry, yeah.
Go ahead,
You
Jim.
know Donald Trump. You've talked to him.
Yeah.
He loves hyperbolic rhetoric. He plays information warfare as well as any leader on the planet. And in as long as I can remember, back to probably Reagan was the last guy who did that style. And Reagan's was polished movie star. Trump's is bombastic New York real estate tycoon. And so he does that to throw the other side off balance. He claims things that he wants to be true to go ahead and assume the close. He uses every technique of the art of the deal to try and push what he wants to happen. Now, in this case, there was tremendous damage and their nuclear program was broken in the 12-day war. When we saw and noticed that they were doing things that said they're just going to continue to rebuild it, he had to recalculate and say, well, you know what? They didn't learn the lesson. We broke it. They couldn't make a bomb right now, but they're going to do it again. And these 12er Shia Islam, sect that Iran has, believes that they need an Armageddon-like event to bring the return of the 12th Imam to rule the world. So you can't trust guys like that, but you can say they're going to look at the long game. And if you want to go ahead and say, okay, during my presidency, I took care of the midterms and kept a Republican majority, great. You don't do the right thing. President Trump took the poison pill for all of us and went ahead and took them out of the game. And hopefully he's taken that regime out for the long term.
Okay, so quickly, Jim Hansen,
it is.
Just as we wrap up, just give me a prediction for what you think is going to happen.
I think we will go ahead and blockade the strait and go ahead and stop them from gaining revenue for it and bringing stuff in, and that will break the regime enough that they will capitulate. They will give up the enriched uranium, and figure they could make more later or cheat or buy one from somebody. And then what will happen is a longer, slow degradation of the entire Islamic Republic remnants until the people of Iran are feeling free enough to rise up with some help and go ahead and bring about a new government that serves their interests and needs and is not a menace to the region and the world.
Okay, Major General Marks, your prediction.
I think we have weeks. We're in a period of transition at the tactical level. We're going to have an increased presence of Marines, which gives the CENTCOM commander some options. If, in fact, there's an opportunity to do something with the highly enriched uranium, I think there will remain negotiations of a sort. I think we're going to have to get our hands around what the nuke discussion looks like. That's a non-negotiable. But I can't see a force, a non-permissive engagement that allows us to go after highly enriched uranium, primarily because we don't know where it is in its entirety, and we don't know how much there is in its entirety. That becomes an incredibly difficult mission set. Iran has also figured out how to make oil like everybody, like the Russians. It's very fungible. So conducting the blockade in the Straits of Hormuz will release pressure. It will increase pressure on the regime in Tehran. I don't think it's going to break it, but it's going to be sufficient, in addition to what has already occurred, that I think we will have negotiations again moving forward, and we'll have an opportunity to start to address that red line, which is give us access to the highly enriched uranium. We can dilute it. We can turn it into something that allows you to have commercial nuclear power, which they have. They've got it in Bushehr right now. And that becomes an opportunity to stop what's happening to the regime right now. I think they would benefit greatly from that.
I bow to both of you in terms of your vastly superior military expertise on this.
That was honestly a bizarre interview. Two U.S. generals couldn't clearly explain some of the biggest questions Piers Morgan raised. One admits they don't even know where Iran's enriched uranium is, while another says Trump used the war as information warfare. Yes, you can argue America won militarily, but if you're negotiating afterward, can you really call it a victory? What do you think?